So it's actually a combination, it's a bit of a play on words in the fact that we're located here at Cape 3 Points. And I was wanting to build an escape from this, like the city, the stress, like the outside world that we find ourselves in, and to find this refuge. So the two came together. Even though initially the full name was going to be Eco Escape 3 Points, but it's a bit of a mouthful. So we reduced it down to Escape 3 Points and stayed like that.
So, who is Akwasi? We know the story of a young man who came to the center of the world and camped on the beach with his friends and discovered the intention to build what is now Escape 3 Points. What is this man's story? Who was he before he came on this beautiful adventure? What year did he arrive here? Where was he traveling to?
Okay. Well, thank you for the question. It's a big question. So my name is Akwasi Mclaren. I was born and raised in Canada, but my mom is Ghanaian. So I made my way back to Ghana in 2003. At that point, I was helping to manage my parents' hotel and came on a camping trip to just get away with some friends and found this place. So after finding this place, I said, no, I want to be able to come back here and build my house. My father advised me that, you like the place because it's beautiful and natural. What happens if you get bad neighbors? So you should try and get as much land as you can. So I came to get the land from the neighbor there to the neighbor to the other side. But then, because I did that, it wasn't so simple to just build only a house. So some years went by, 6 years, and I was actually still managing my parents' hotel, dreaming about what it was that I wanted to do here, and realizing that as I was managing the hotel, more of a standard hotel welcomes every kind of person. And I really wanted to focus on certain types of people that were really interesting and draw those people here. Because I could also see that tourism was really helping the local communities. So I said, okay, I'm going to build something, but it won't be a hotel, that people can come and stay and also experience the area. So my background, I'm actually an architect by training. I did my studies in Canada, and actually I did my thesis as was a low-cost, hands-on low-cost trade school in Ghana, where the whole concept was a school that had no money, but located on the roadside with access to the local resources. And the first project for the school was actually to build the school. So I'd had interest in composting toilets and compressed earth blocks, and so it was a question of putting it all together. So through that, as well as the fact that I grew up on the farm, so I grew up in my father's workshop, all of this allowed me to be able to come to a place where there was nothing and just begin to build and over what we started this whole process at the end of 2008. And since then, of course, there was a whole master plan of what we were coming to build. But since then, a lot of things have changed, and the whole place actually has been built organically as we've realized we need this or that. We've just built, and it's still a continuous process.
Wow. Um, you mentioned we. Who are your co-creators?
So I'm the primary person who's led the whole thing, but my wife, when I first started everything here at the lodge, at that time we were dating. So she's been very supportive since the beginning. I also have some members of my team that have been with me since the very beginning. they just came as laborers, and then they've grown as well with the place and become not much more than laborers. They know a lot of the different corners and also the spirit and all the things we've done to make this place what it is.
Great. How would you describe the experience of creating this paradise?
It's been a journey, that's for sure. Since the beginning, it's been a difficult journey in the sense that I've learned a lot about myself. I've also learned a lot about the fact that it's one of the things I love the most and dislike the most would be people, in the sense that it's people that have helped give me strength to be able to continue to do this, but it's also people that have also made me completely crazy and said, no, I think I have to stop to do this. And that balance of trying to see where things are going. But overall, in the end, well, we're still doing it, and the powers of people like still saying no, like what you're doing, just keep going, and helping to inspire has allowed us to continue to do what we're doing.
Thank you. What inspired the name Escape 3 Points?
So it's actually a combination. It's a bit of a play on words, in the fact that we're located here at Cape 3 Points, and I was wanting to build an escape from this, like the city, the stress, like the outside world that we find ourselves in, and to find this refuge. So the two came together. Even though initially the full name was going to be Eco Escape 3 Points, but it's a bit of a mouthful, so we reduced it down to Escape 3 Points and stayed like that.
Thank you. So I am amazed at how much people come in here with their valuables and come back to me their valuables intact. The charging point is an example of that. How did you make security work without security guards and CCTV?
So before I ever came to actually to live here, there was a story of a surfer who left his bag on the beach when he went out surfing. And I come and greet the chief, check on the land, and the chief had passed me this bag, not knowing that I didn't even know the story beforehand. And he said, well, very sorry, this won't happen again. And for myself, I'm also from a small town, and the town itself, they want to uphold a certain name. So that helps for the most part, that people, they want to do the right thing. They don't want anybody going away and starting to speak badly about how this is the kind of people that we are. Having said that, of course, we've had small incidents where there's like petty theft incidents and things like this, where many times the community also comes and also helps to help sort out the situation.
I see, because my next question would have been, have you had like an incident of theft and violence here before?
Not so much violence, theft, petty theft, but not so much on site. Mostly, a lot of those incidents usually happen on the beach. So close by where, one thing I learned just coming here myself at the very beginning is that as much as you're in nature and you feel like you're alone, when you're in trouble, there's people around. I once got my truck stuck on site before we really had a proper established road, and people could hear the truck, and so they came out of nowhere to come and help so that we could actually get the truck out. So there's always somebody around. So that's good and bad. Sometimes there's people who are around who don't have the best of intentions, and they're looking at it's opportunistic, and especially for the youth. That was part of the reason why when I came to meet the chief initially, for him, he said he knew that my parents had a hotel, so he really wanted me to come and establish a hotel. Which I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't necessarily what I was coming to do, but let's see what we can do. But for him, it was more about the importance of creating jobs for the youth. And I can definitely see that. For this community, as it's so remote, there's not a lot of opportunities for the youth. So either one, they start to follow in their parents' footsteps of maybe becoming fishermen, farmers, or just, well, petty crime, like out of boredom, because, people are wanting opportunities, and if they don't get the opportunities, they'll find ways and means to get it. So definitely there's still opportunity for the youth to also have more experiences here, so that we also can minimize these kind of incidents.
I agree. I hear what you're saying. So have you experienced a case of culture shock from a guest before, What was it about, and how did you handle it?
I don't know if we had so many people who experienced too much cultural shock once they reached here. Typically, just the fact that they've already arrived in Ghana, in Accra, and they've had to have a bit of a journey before they reached here. But definitely, um, for people who've never been to Ghana, coming here, um, even here, like I like to say that like Accra is not Ghana.
Yeah.
Accra is its own entity. Escape is also the same.
Mm-hmm.
So um, we don't have all the issues, like daily issues of Ghana here. So in some ways, it's a bit easier to also acclimatize yourself to what's going on in Ghana and also try to understand the culture better. Because there are a lot of different things about people's understandings and people's mindsets that are different from everywhere else. And definitely here it allows you to have time to actually kind of sink into it. So it's not so much of a like a high speed like shock. So.
Okay, thank you. I've met one or two volunteers here. What is your process of signing up volunteers? What do you look out for?
So we've had volunteers from different places. One, we have a post online with Workaway that people are applying. We've also had people who just, either come as guests and they have family members or they know somebody who'd also be interested to come here. Mm-hmm. Also guests who've come and said, oh, well, we want to come back and we really want to take part of what you're doing. Always for me, when I'm looking at volunteers coming, I try and look at a combination of like what projects we have going on and what are their skill sets, and try to see how we could try to balance things and also improve upon things. Because a lot of times when people are coming, they want to learn more about what we're doing, but I also want to try and find a balance where they're able to learn more, but also the team and the site can also gain from their experience and knowledge. Because definitely everybody who comes here comes from a completely different background. So there's always something that we can learn from each other. And I mean, that's part of the whole concept since the beginning, is about the idea about sharing knowledge from people from outside, people from here. Because for me, I find there's a lot of knowledge, like local knowledge, that is very valuable, but a lot of times people don't see the merit in it. But people coming from outside can see it. And the same with people coming from outside, they'll know things, and even they won't necessarily write on their CV that they know certain things because they don't feel it's important. But afterwards, it turns out to be something very valuable and actually works very well with the environment and what we're doing.
Thank you. Do you have any projects you're currently working on?
Right now, I actually think I don't have a project on for once. We've finished this working space here at the end of last year, and we're doing some renovations around. So at the moment, I'm just brainstorming about which project I'm going to take on next. But yes, also is the fact that it's the Christmas holiday period, so it's the moment where we really focus on all the people coming to make sure that they also enjoy their experience. And then now, as we've now moved into 2023, now definitely it's the moment to see what project we will take on next.
Thank you. Are you hiring?
Yes.
You're always hiring?
Not necessarily, but this year especially, we're restructuring how we're doing things. For myself, I can see that I need to take a step back from a lot of the day-to-day things that's happening here. Although my problem is the fact I know that I know how to do everything, which is good and bad, but it's also not allowing me to also bring things to a whole next level. And so it's definitely the moment for that. So I'm also looking at restructuring, about being able to put key people in between that can help to lead alongside me. Because within my team, I have a lot of people who are strong, but the leadership is where it's more difficult. And it's, when you're on a team, you want to be a part of the team. You don't want to be on the side. And so it's trickier to find the right people who want to be able to lead, because a lot of times the people who want to lead, they're doing their own thing, which is normal. So right now, definitely, I'm looking at some more like manager, like mid positions within the whole company, I guess.
Okay, thank you. So, I've seen you surf. Do you have other hobbies or interests that help you think outside the box?
Surfing is a big thing that plays into my life. Um, I also I DJ a bit on the side, like a bit of a hobby DJ. I've been learning guitar, but mostly just doing what I do occupies a lot of my time. And yes, it's my work per se, but at the same time, uh, I'm my own boss, and I get to research and learn more about a lot of things that I'm already interested in. So almost like my work is also my hobby. So it keeps me quite busy, and and I'm also able to do it at my own pace most of the time. So um, yeah, apart from some music and some surfing, I'm okay. Well, I have my children. That also keeps me quite busy. So,
Thank you. On 31st Eve, I saw some workers picking butterfly pea from the farm, which was used to make blue rice for 31st dinner. Do you get your produce from the farm?
so there you go. That answers the question. I've forgotten this. So yes, we have quite a bit of produce that comes from the farm. Over the years, our farm has either been extremely abundant or not enough produce, so it's always been varying a lot. And also due to the fact that we're doing it in an organic manner, it's a bit of a new concept to people on my team. But currently, I have some people around, some permaculture experts, and we're actually working on doing some restructuring with the farm to make sure that that it's productive on a more consistent basis. So that is actually the first project of this year, which has already begun. So I've kind of forgotten that. Yes, we're already on the first project. So and because part of the whole point is that as we are here, the idea is to be self-sustaining in all aspects, and showing an example of that. So definitely being able to produce your own food, so that you don't have to be buying from outside. Of course, there's certain things that yes, we'll have to be buying from outside, like things like rice or things like this. But to be able to produce as much as we possibly can in terms of fruit and vegetables and herbs here on site.
Thank you. Is there something that you would do differently as a creator of Escape Trip Points if you could go back in time?
I think that I would be more careful to document and keep very carefully every documentation of everything we've done. Apart from that, I mean, it's difficult to know how the journey would have gone. I mean, there's definitely moments. There's at least 2 or 3 moments where I was ready to stop the whole thing, and it was just chance and what's happened along the way that's formed that. So I don't know if I necessarily would have done it any other way, but definitely as I've been doing it, learning how to do it in a better way and better balance, just life balance versus work balance, and making sure that everything is flowing. I mean, part of the thing too is that what we do, it's not a conventional thing. So it's always tricky to see how to try and find a balance when there's no simple blueprint that we can just follow. Whereas if we did a standard hotel or something like this, it's easy. It's like, do this, do this, do this. But as we're pushing to try and do it in a different way, it's also about trying to find solutions to unknown problems along the way.
Thank you. Do you keep in touch with other creators and guests who've lodged in here?
A bit, yes. And in fact, I mean, this past 2022, I mean, of course, the COVID, of course, affected a lot of things here. 2022 was a really wonderful year in the sense that we had a number of creatives who were coming through, young creators, and for me, it was really, really wonderful to have that kind of energy around, because, I mean, when people come and enjoy, this is wonderful, but also to see and feel that creative energy through others, really is really inspiring for me. And so this year, definitely, we're going to be encouraging a lot more creatives to be actually coming into our space, because definitely there's a lot of energy here that helps inspire things for different creatives.
I I agree. Let's talk about the naming of the lodges. In the Three Sisters Lodge,
Hmm.
and saw the inscription underneath the name. The person who pursues two rats who meets both. And there's an image of an owl on the wall of one of the rooms. Is this symbolic?
So each part that you spoke about is symbolic. Even then, the naming of the houses. Every house has its own name, and every house has its own story about how it came to be. Um, so that was the beginning of the process. Afterwards, when we were actually putting the names of the houses on, we added a number of different African proverbs that we thought were also fitting in relation to those houses. Uh, and then after, like, for the whole process of even building the house, like Twin Sisters, for example, was a house where um, the idea was to try and build a two-story house only with earth and bamboo. So we achieved it. Afterwards, the feedback we got back was, for people's feet, the round bamboo was a bit too round, so it was difficult on people's feet. So we did some modification and changed things. So every house and space continues to evolve and change. And likewise with the owl on the wall, we had an opportunity to have a volunteer with us who's a painter. And so we discussed about doing some murals because we did some painting. So we brought the idea of the owl just to add some small touches and small like feel to the space. So it just every house still continues in that sense. But yeah, we can spend a whole interview just on the explanation of each house. But yes, there's a story. I mean, much the same with everything that's happened here. There's a big story behind everything that's happened here.
Mm, I'm curious to hear the story. We'll set up another for just that. So, how many lodges are here?
So we have 11 bungalows. We also have the dormitory that sleeps 10. We also have the Rainbow House, which is 6 rooms, sleeping 2 in each room with a shared toilet and bath. So typically, if we're full on a kind of normal time, like about 50 people can come and stay here.
Interesting. So, would you design more lodges in the future?
In fact, one of my projects for 2023 is not here on site. It's actually at Lake Blossom Tree, where my grandfather's from. And so there, we're planning to build just a 2-bedroom earth block building, just as a small house. And for me, also, the idea of also starting to be able to take some of our construction methods to other places so that people can also experience it and know it will also help to inspire and also bring better solutions for people to build. It's been one of the things that I've been wanting to do for years now, in the sense that for me, like, building with earth makes so much more sense than with concrete. And with the current prices, inflation and things, with the price of cement, it makes it difficult for people to build. But for me, there's better options like using earth, where even my own mother, when they were building their hotel, I was trying to encourage my mom to build with earth, and she said no, like, for her it was too much village style building. But for me, it's just a question of education and the fact that people don't understand that, earth, yes, was used on more of a village level. That's what we'll be able to use. But it's the details in the construction that allow it to be something that can be sustainable and last many years. So being able to build examples like what we've been doing here allows people to also like touch and feel and understand better that, oh, okay, you know what, this could be a better option. I can still have my air conditioned house. I don't need to have it's much cooler space. And there's so many different benefits to building in alternative ways. But a lot of times I've seen with young architects, even in Ghana, where they're not taught these methods because of the liability and the fears that people are not 100% sure about how to do it. So even when it came to doing what we're doing here, I looked to discuss with different people, and it was difficult to find people who were knowledgeable enough and wanted to share their knowledge. So for myself, it was more like, this whole journey has been actually experiencing and learning it. And then now, for myself, there's a big push that we need to share all the knowledge we actually have here. For myself, I feel that it's really important that people do know how to build in these kind of methods and be able to be more self-sustainable And especially after what we've experienced in the last 2 years with COVID in the world, in the fact that so much of the world we're dependent on other people and other sources, where if we can also be more self-sustaining, we can actually be in a better situation when conflict comes in the world.
Thanks. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what emotions would you say escape trip points evoke in your guests?
I think that for my guests, a lot of people, the people who are and they turn into be like return guests, they're just really happy to be in a serene environment in nature. At the same time, some of those people also, they have their jobs and they also need to be able to check in, and we've been creating spaces so that when they are here and they are doing those things, they can take their moments, check in, do their work, and then also unplug again quickly. So very much this like cut off from those things that would bring us too much stress or anxiety, but also we're not completely cut off from the world.
I hear you on that. I'd say this place allows me to slow down. So yeah. Okay, so what are some of your favorite memories of escape trip points that you have?
That's a good question. I think the first memory that comes to me is when during the COVID we closed the lodge for 2 months. We've only closed the lodge 2 days in 13 years, where one was for our wedding party, so it was just to invite friends and be able to use the space, and the second was the outdooring for our daughter, and the same, both times people just showed up without notifying us in advance, so of course we just welcomed them to come and join. But for the COVID, we shut down for 2 months, and then upon reopening, we were getting a lot of pressure from people living in Accra that really wanted to be able to get out of being locked away in their compounds. And so when it came to reopening, we said, okay, well, we'll allow people to come again. We'll see how it's going, because we didn't want anything to happen to the village and bring COVID to this village. So we did a soft opening, and we had a couple of families were in the groups that came at the beginning. And when the children came out of the cars, you could see that they'd been locked away for like 2 or 3 months, and they were so free and happy. And I had tears in my eyes watching these children just like run around. And I'm like, okay, we have to keep doing this. Like, people need this. So it really helped us push and reopen the lodge, because, yeah, I mean, even when we closed it, I was upset about the fact, I'm like, this is not a good reason to close. Like, people need to be able to go outside, especially in these kind of times. But I understand that, people are doing their best to make decisions that this is what we should do. But I'm like, no, people need to be able to get away from all these things and be able to just breathe proper air and have space between yourselves naturally. So yeah, I think that's the first big memory that comes to me. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of stories.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And this is the end of the interview. Thank you for answering my questions. Honestly, I feel really overwhelmed, but thank you so much for your honesty and sharing these answers to these questions. Hopefully we get to have more storytelling session maybe here, because I hope to visit soon, maybe December this year, or maybe early next year.
Okay.
And thank you for having this.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, and thank you for coming, and thank you for the opportunity to share. I mean, as many times as I tell the same story over and over again, it is nice to actually share the story. And also, when other people share the story, then I can tell the other stories,
Yes.
and not the same story all the time. So.
I agree. Hey, Eva, did you get that?
Yeah, it was great.